Hello and welcome back to Bambouctou. Smooth conversations about bamboo every week. If you dig bamboo like we do, check out my website, bambouctou.com. Hundreds of informative articles about bamboo, all sorts of topics related to bamboo. Anything you want to know about bamboo, check it out. Free content, good stuff. Also, subscribe to the channel if you like it. We always appreciate that. And positive comments down below. Always cool. Further information in the show notes below, as well as links to related places and things. So let's get into it. This week we're talking about bamboo in the south of France. It's a topic that is not too frequently discussed, but it is a fun topic because the south of France is really pretty. It's a great place to visit. And if you're in Europe and you're driving around on a road trip, definitely check out Toulouse. It's a cool spot. Lots of great things to see all over the southern half of France and also the western half and the eastern half. There's a lot of nice stuff in France, I have to say. I do love their baguettes. And I also love the bamboo. It's surprising how much bamboo is growing in France. We don't really associate bamboo with France. Most of us don't. Europe is the only continent besides Antarctica where there is no native bamboo species in Europe. Bamboo is, of course, very widespread in Asia, South Asia, Southeast Asia. It does grow all over Africa, native bamboo, all over South America, Central America as well. There are about 3 species of bamboo native to North America, the United States specifically. There are other species native to Mexico, which is also North America. And there are a handful of native bamboo species in Australia even, but not in Europe. So it's kind of interesting to go through Europe and go through France and find lots of bamboo growing. So one of my destinations when I was in France recently was a Bambouctou in Langage No. I'm sure I did not pronounce that correctly, but the important thing is I got there, I found it, and it was spectacular. If you look at that picture, this looks like something straight out of China, one of those spectacular groves of Moso bamboo. However, this is not Moso bamboo. If you look closely, you see the bamboo poles here are kind of bent around and curvy and swervy, which is not something you see with Moso. Moso is a very straight and upright, very elegant, regal bamboo species. It grows up to like 80 or 100 feet, maybe, at least in its native habitat in the Anji Valley in China. So this is a different species. From a distance, it looks pretty similar, but as you look more closely, the poles are kind of bent and irregular, which is interesting. The cool story, though, which Francois told me, Francois is the owner of Bambouctou there. Bambouctou is kind of a play on words of like Timbuktu. And also, if you know French, there's another play on words in there. And I'm sure some of you out there do know French, and you probably do know what I'm talking about. So this species, like I said, it's not Moso. It is a Phylostachys. It is definitely a running bamboo. It's a timber bamboo. I was told that it's Phylostachys viridis midis, which I had actually never heard of. And it's always fun for me when I come across a bamboo species that I haven't heard of, because I've heard of quite a few bamboo species. But I'm not above it to admit that there's something I don't know. And this was something which I did not know. And the cool thing is that he had a story about it, which is the story is this grove has been there about, what do you say, 20 or 30 years. And apparently it was a Chinese botanist that shared the one little plant of bamboo with this farmer in France. This was before Francois came along and took over taking care of this grove. The grove is about half a hectare, or roughly 1 acre. Anyway, it's a really nice lush grove, and apparently the Chinese botanist, the story goes, he wanted to play a trick on the French, because he thought, you know what, if you guys want to grow bamboo, we're not going to give you our best bamboo, because best bamboo belong to China, and we don't share bamboo with the French. Or at least that was the idea at the time. I'm sure nowadays people are far more open and understanding towards foreign cultures and ways of life and all that good stuff, which is definitely something that we support. Multicultural tolerance is definitely high on our agenda. Anyway, the point is, he gave him some wacky species of bamboo that doesn't grow straight. It's a crooked bamboo. Because Philostachys viridis medius is difficult to pronounce, I think it should be renamed just simply crooked bamboo because it's really crooked. And a funny little trick that supposedly this Chinese botanist played on the French farmer. But it is, although a beautiful bamboo species, apparently it's not that good to work with, besides being not straight poles, which are hard to work with when you're doing construction and carpentry. The lack of straightness is a challenge to overcome. It doesn't split very well. It's kind of fibrous and it's kind of messy to work with. So Francois, who does lots of interesting construction projects with this bamboo, finds it pretty challenging. But as he's gotten more familiar with it, he's figured out ways to work with it and take advantage of those irregularities and use them to his advantage. So I guess the French had the last laugh over the Chinese botanist in this story. I have no idea if that story is really true, but this is what I was told, and I'm just passing it on as I heard it because I'm not one to just make stuff up. But anyway, it's a cool story. The other grove that he showed me just across the way. Oh, wait, one more picture of the running bamboo. This is like my favorite picture I took on this whole trip. That's the rhizome of bamboo, and this thing was about thicker than my thumb. It's a pretty thick rhizome there. Um, yeah, maybe that was about an inch and a half in diameter, like a big rhizome, just like boop, bobbing out of the soil there. It did not actually make that sound, but it was pretty cool. Definitely a tripping hazard if you're walking through that grove, admiring all the bamboo culms and looking up towards the sky. You could easily get your foot stuck under that and trip, which did not happen to me. The only reason it didn't happen probably is because Francois, my companion, pointed out, like, watch out, tripping hazard. And so I did watch out. And then I took a picture. So another great story. So then we walked over to this other grove, which is really cool. Philostachys virideglacensis. It's a hard one to pronounce. So bear with me. But this one's actually pretty common in France. This is probably the most common bamboo species in France. Never heard of people growing it in the US for some reason. Not sure why that is. Not sure how it got to France. I could make up some story about some um, gardener of Chinese extraction who brought it to China to France, but I'm not going to make anything up. So I'm going to say I don't know. I don't know how it got there, but it is noticeably different from the other Philostachys, which had the darker green culms. This one's got the culms come up green and they sort of yellow with age. They've also got those white rings around the nodal joints, which is pretty interesting, and a far superior species to work with for construction purposes. It's very straight. It splits nicely into even slats and strips, and really good to work with. And also because of the nature of the poles and the coloration, it's much easier to identify the oldest culms versus the youngest culms, which is important when you're doing your harvesting. Generally, you want to harvest poles that have been up for at least 3 or 4 years already. You don't want to harvest the ones that just came up, in the previous spring. The wood's not going to be as hard. It's not going to be as easy to work with. And speaking of working with, Francois is working with this stuff to great effect. He's got great success with his projects. Really cool stuff. He sent me a few pictures. This was a project he was working on in another area, a little bit away from where we were. So he likes to work with bamboo without the treatment on there. If you want to weatherproof the bamboo, usually give it some sort of a borax or boric acid treatment. So he doesn't like to do that. And because he doesn't like to do that, the bamboo poles will tend to split and crack pretty quickly after one season of rain and snow and one season of hot summer sunshine. After that, it's pretty quick that the bamboo gets little splits and cracks. It loses its color, it gets kind of grayish, not that attractive, and so they're pretty temporary. temporary structures. So what he does is, instead of using the whole pole, he takes the poles and splits them into little strips. And with the strips, he's actually got some much greater flexibility and bendability on those strips. So he does these really cool geometric, kind of dome shaped things. He's got some other projects that he does as well. Um, but yeah, I thought these were really cool. Also, these do not have any treatment on them, so over time they will also degrade a bit from the weather, although they hold up much better than the solid poles, which is kind of strange. You would think that by stripping it, it would lose more of its would lose some of its structural integrity and whatnot. But the strips actually do better. The strips don't really split, but they will weather and lose their color and age and lose strength over the period of some years, maybe 4 or 5, 6 years or something like that. And then after that, his idea is to just take the old bamboo pieces and reduce them down to biochar. As you know, I'm a huge fan of biochar. Once you turn it into biochar, you can add it to the soil, um, plow it back into the earth for increased soil fertility and carbon sequestration, and great benefits of biochar. So that's kind of a cool life cycle that he employs with his bamboo construction. Um, Pretty great. So that was my fun time at the bamboo farm in the south of France. That's just about half hour or so outside of Toulouse to the south. But in the city of Toulouse itself, you also find some surprising bamboo. This was I think that was Charles de Gaulle Plaza, which every city in France, you're sure to find a Plaza with Charles de Gaulle. I'm sure they pronounce his name differently than I do, but here we are. And there I was. And the bamboo was there too. I suspected that this is a species of Plioblastus bamboo growing in the park and the plaza there, right in front of this interesting building. I'm afraid I don't remember what the building was. It's not a church. I think it's some kind of public office. I don't know. There's so many buildings like that in France that are just really pretty, and they're not anything really important. They just happen to be very elegant structures. Some very fine architecture to enjoy in Toulouse. Lots of bricks everywhere. There's also an amazing space museum, the City of Space. That's the English translation. I'm not going to bother you with the French name of it, but it is the City of Space. Amazing space vehicles that they have preserved there that you can visit and check them out in person. You can go inside. You can see what it's like to be inside one of these space capsules. Crazy stuff. You imagine 3 people squeezed into these little boxes for like 4 or 5 days, and they're like squeezed in this little bucket, and they have to eat and drink and sleep and do all their business right there in this little bucket, right next to 2 other dudes on the way to the moon. And you realize, yeah, being an astronaut is pretty cool, but it's super uncomfortable. I'm not sure if I don't want to do it. But anyway, outside there's lots of bamboo. Like, who knew? There we are in the Space Museum, and we're surrounded by bamboo. On a side note, there used to be a really cool bamboo labyrinth because we were there a few years ago. There was a bamboo labyrinth that spun around, and the way that it spun around, it was actually a replica of the Milky Way galaxy, spiral galaxy, um, and living greenery with bamboo. Really cool thing. You can walk in between the arms of the galaxy, which were all represented by bamboo. It was about 100, 200 feet across, I think. Pretty fun thing. But for some reason, they had removed it and replaced it with another exhibit of a space vehicle. After all, it was more of a space museum than a bamboo garden, but still, it was a replica of the Milky Way galaxy. And not sure why they got rid of it, but they did. Anyway, definitely worth visiting. Fun for the kids, fun for the adults, fun for the whole family. Highly recommend it. This appeared to be some species of Indocalamus. Not 100% sure about that, but anyway, a nice grove of running bamboo there, right at the base of this rocket. This was the Ariane rocket that the French space space organization launched into space. And if you want the complete details on that, check out the Google or ask ChatGPT. It'll probably come up with some good explanation. So that was definitely fun. The last thing I visited for bamboo thrills was the Japanese garden in the center of Toulouse. Beautiful spot, little temple here with some type of Far Eastern deity represented on the statue in front of this nice little water feature. And lots of bamboo growing around there, lots of people hanging out, picnicking, doing their thing. It was a beautiful day when I was there. Nice spring day. Great day to enjoy the bamboo, throw the frisbee around. Good times. If you're looking for it, it's called the. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. You can just read it and type it into your Google device and figure out where it is. Pretty close to the center of the city. Easy to get to by foot. We pretty much did a lot of walking while we were there. It's a nice medium-sized city. Lots to see. Lots of rivers, canals, and pastries, like really good pastries. So yeah, that's the garden. The Japanese garden is in the middle of this park. Lots of bamboo there. In this photo, there's a little bit of bamboo back there up on the upper left. Some people goofing around in the park there. Lots of fun and games, fun in bamboo in the south of France. If you're ever there, definitely check it out. If you got any other tips on bamboo destinations in Europe or anywhere else, let me know in the comment section. I'm always looking for a good bamboo road trip. Head to Thailand for some good bamboo visitation and biochar training next month. Looking forward to that. I'm sure there will be a video about that in the next 4 to 6 weeks. Stay tuned for that. And of course, subscribe to the channel and don't miss anything related to bamboo from Bambouctou, your source for bamboo knowledge and smooth talking bamboo conversations. We'd love to hear from you, so send us a note, drop a comment down below, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.